Hello, folks. How's it going? I'm using a different microphone from usual today because I'm going to be standing further back from this thing, so I want to test to see how it sounds. So I do what I always do in this situation, which is pull up my stream on another platform. Okay, not bad. Okay, so what we are doing today is we are going to, oops, hold on, let me turn off my stream so I don't have it going in my ear 3 seconds later. All right, so what we are doing today is we are going to work on finishing up a couple of hills on my motorway road. These are hills that probably should have gone in before I started working on scenery and ballast and all of that, because the method I use is a little messy. But it is what it is. It is what it is. So we're going to, as cleanly as possible, do the messy work. So let's talk quickly about the foam portion of these hills. So you can see right here, I've got some green foam kind of laying on the layout. This is florist foam. It's not this kind of like the dense, almost wet feeling green foam that's like hard, that you would like maybe put fake flowers in, like at a cemetery. This is a different kind of florist foam. This is like a wide open cell, real plasticky kind of stuff. And what makes it great is when you take a tree or a bush or whatever and you stick it in, it goes in easy and it holds it nice and firm. It doesn't kind of like loosen up over time either. Whereas like pink foam can sometimes, that hole will get a little larger and it'll kind of loosen up over time. This stuff will just kind of stay nice and firm, hold the tree nice. So it's really good for planting trees into. It is, this is a technique that's on my Confluent dude, so I've been doing it on my model railroad. Did on my previous model railroad, doing it on this one. It's a really great way of adding great looking hills. Pretty non-messy. I mean, you do get a garbage can full of shavings. But what I do is I take a snap blade knife, and I just kind of like shave pieces off to kind of get it in the shape I want. And that's how I do that. It is a little expensive. It's about $10 a sheet, and the sheets are like a 1.5 feet by 2 feet, something like that. Maybe it's 1 foot by 2 feet. They're not huge sheets, and you get for $10 a piece. If you're doing a large layout, you probably want to conserve where you use these. You know, maybe build up with like pink foam and then top it with the green foam in one layer, so that you got a place to stick your trees, but you're not wasting all of that foam. I started collecting foam, these sheets of foam, like a little bit at a time for the past 10 years. So for 10 years, I would go to Walmart occasionally and be like, I got extra $10 in my pocket. Let me grab a sheet of foam. So I have built up quite a collection of this green foam. So what I would suggest, if you like the green foam idea, is maybe do the same, because like even on Amazon, it's not any cheaper. Walmart's like the cheapest place to find it. $10 for a sheet. It's about this big, and if you're not careful, you can go through it quite quickly. Okay. The only real issue that we have with this kind of foam is the transition from your base, in this case I have a plywood base, to the foam itself. You got like a little bit of lip. It's not like a really easy way to do a transition. Um, and I've got over here, I got another piece of foam that's also in need of a nice transition. This is where plaster cloth comes in. So plaster cloth, it looks like this. I get mine from Scenic Express. I bought a big old box full of it. A lot of railroad shops carry them as well. I think all it is the same material that is used to make plaster casts. I think it's the same stuff. I think they just repackage it as plaster cloth for model railroading. But it is a sort of a cloth, a see-through cloth that has plaster infused in it that you wet, you kind of put it in place, and then once it dries nice and hard, like you would imagine. And I use it to kind of create that transition from the foam down onto like your base, whatever it might be, whether it's foam like over here or this wood swing gate over here. And then I will use Celluclay, we'll do that today as well, to kind of transition between the cloth and the foam. So it's like 3 levels of transition, but what you get is a really nice looking kind of hillside. You got plenty of room for planting trees on top. And you're sort of using the best of all worlds. Plaster cloth, using the best of that, using the best of the foam, using the best of the Celluclay. It's not ultra messy because you're not using like a ton of plaster cloth or Celluclay. It's not ultra expensive because you're not using a ton of the florist foam. It's kind of a hybrid of all 3, and I think it works pretty good. Is that the foam you use in the flowers? Yes. If you missed earlier, Casey, if you missed earlier, it is florist foam, but it's not. There's 2 types of florist foam. There's the really dense florist foam that's like kind of like it feels like you're hitting like a foam brick. I don't know how to explain it. It's really, really dense, a little on the heavier side of the 2 types of foam. That florist foam is made from like a biodegradable material. So you get it wet, it's going to start to fall apart. It's going to fall apart on your layout over time. It's going to just come to pieces and crumble apart. Do not use that foam. This is a different type of florist foam. It's a kind of real plasticky, light, open cell, which means there's like lots of little holes all over it. That's the type of florist foam you want to use. So there's like, if you go to like Michael's, you'll see the 2 types. The cheapest place I found it is Walmart for $10 for a sheet. And the sheet, let me go get the sheet real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. Here's the sheet, $10 for this. 2 inches by 1 foot and 17.9 inches, so not even 2 feet. I think I said 1.5 by 2 feet earlier. This is how big it is for about $10. Okay, this is your best deal. These come in different sizes, different shapes. It comes in like larger squares. I think the smaller. I think this is the best deal, the best size for model railroaders anyway. You know, you can always stack them, cut it up and stack them higher if you need to, that kind of thing. But this is the way to go. And yes, it's expensive. So, be smart about where you're using the layout, or do what I did, which was just slowly over the past 10 years, just buy a sheet here and there wherever you go until you got a pretty large collection sitting in your closet. Okay, enough of that. Let's go ahead and get started working on this little mountain here. Okay, so all I need is a little container to hold water, my plaster cloth, and a pair of scissors. Oh, you know what else I need? I need to cover my completed scenery so I don't mess it all up. Maybe we should have done that step before I even turned on the stream. I tend to use the magazines with kind of the slick paper that you get in the mail to cover things with, because it doesn't soak up the water like a newspaper might. And you soak up the water and then it starts to leak through to your scenery below. You don't want that. So that shiny magazine paper works well to help protect scenery. I think, anyway. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Chris asked what my thoughts are on scrap pink or blue foam versus the florist foam. I like the pink foam a lot. On my previous layout, I used it quite a bit. What I did was I built up a hill. So like say this hill in the back, I would build that up with the pink foam first, and then I would put a layer of the green florist foam on top. So I had somewhere to stick trees, but then I had the pink foam below it. Yeah, I like the pink foam a lot. I think that's a great method for building up hills. You can really kind of carve it and make it look like however you want, which is really cool. I'm not using it on this layout, and the only reason why is because I'm for some of my larger hill forms, I'm using the cardboard strips built up and then laying plaster cloth over top of it. That's kind of what's going on back here. But then I am topping it with the green foam to plant trees. So I'm just using a slightly different method, but the pink foam I think is great. Another reason I didn't use the pink foam on this layout was because in my area I could only find it in 4x8 foot sheets, and it was like $70 or something for a sheet at the time. I don't know. It was super expensive, but it was also like COVID days as well, so it might have gone down in price. But the 2-inch pink foam, if you're building a layout for the first time, it's probably way cheaper than doing the green foam thing for sure. I just happen to have saved up quite a bit of the green foam, so not necessary for me. Okay. So you just start by taking some scissors. I use scissors that I don't necessarily want to worry about keeping nice because they will get covered in plaster dust and all that. And another great thing about this plaster cloth is you can kind of start to shape it before you get it wet to kind of fit in the area you want it to fit in. Which is very helpful. Okay. And what I'm doing is I'm just transitioning from the green foam to the flat surface. So just kind of get it a little wet, lay it on there. These generally take 2 layers to cover the area you want and give it the stiffness that you want. Hold on, someone's texting me. I know I said this in previous streams, but I love making scenery so much. I'm so happy to kind of be back into this game, the scenery making game. See, I'm kind of getting to the edge here. Let me bring this in a little tighter. All right. Question is from KC. What part of the country am I from? I'm from the Central Illinois area. I am modeling the Pacific Northwest, though. I just love the drama of the trees, and the scenery is just so gorgeous up there. The rocks and the mountains. So, and I'm creating these curves here just to kind of avoid as much as possible like sharp edges. You can see I lay down a square here and I got a sharp edge, which is fine, but I don't want like sharp edges. This is supposed to look natural. So like the roundness kind of helps it avoid kind of sharp lines and sharp corners and stuff. I don't know if I'm overthinking it or not, but because I am going to lay over the top of it. Celluclay anyway, so I'm probably overthinking this, but hey, we got one from Madison and one from Cincinnati. Hi, guys. I think I'm actually going up to the Chicagoland area to operate in a couple of layouts here in a few weeks. So I'll be closer to you. Another good thing about this plaster cloth is it does start to dry pretty quickly because it's pretty thin. Cool. Over the trucker. What did you say? Over the road trucking? Over the road trucker. My former brother-in-law was one of those. You guys do a lot of work. I commend you. I tip my hat to you guys. I'm just laying on the second layer now over top. I don't know that I need to do as small of pieces as I am, but I am kind of like, I've got this like kind of weird curve I'm kind of moving around, so I'm trying to lay down the cloth in a way that doesn't produce a ton of wrinkles. But let's do a bit of a bigger piece just as a test. Because I think I can just kind of it's thin enough. I think I can just kind of lay it over and be fine. Yeah, this is fine. You don't need small pieces as I was cutting after all. Okay. A couple more pieces and I'll be done with this one, and we'll move on to a couple of different hills. All right. Let me pull everything away here so you can kind of see what it all looks like. Ta-da! Cool. We'll come back to that here in a bit, but I am going to do the next bit of hillside. Which is over here. Let's see, a good spot to put the camera for this. So this is a bridge that created a little bit of a hill here so that it can, you know, a little bit of a cut for the train to go through. This is based on a real bridge. Based on a real bridge, but slightly adjusted. It is not 100% accurate, but it's close enough. If you see this bridge and you know the area that I'm modeling, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's that bridge. So I've just constructed and primed the bridge for the moment. It's not painted yet. But it'll get there. But I had the bridge in place here so I could know where to put in the screen foam and how to shape it properly. And now with it shaped properly, I'm going to come in here and remove the bridge carefully. This is a very precisely machined bridge location. Okay, it's a little hard to see with the camera, but I got a piece of green foam here and then another one on the other side. And we're essentially just going to transition into the ground with that, with the green foam in the plaster cloth, and we'll go from there. This isn't finished senior here, so I'm not so worried about covering it up. And because of the odd angle, you're not going to be able to see me as well. I'm just going to start laying down cloth right here. Just wet it down and lay it down. That's it. Over and over again. Pretty straightforward. Cut more cloth, do the same, over and over again. And I'm going to actually use more of the Celluclay in this area to kind of build up the surface a little bit more. Because what I want is a smoother transition down. I don't know if you can see on the camera, but it's pretty sharp. It's like, don't really want that. I would much rather have a nice kind of smooth transition into the flat part of it. Okay, one more layer and then I'll call it good here. And we'll come back to it with the Celluclay to kind of smooth that transition. Once that dries, it's going to be nice and hard. It's not going to go anywhere. It's going to be good. All right, I'll do the other side now. This side doesn't really need. You know what? I'm going to do this whole side in just Celluclay because there's not a whole lot of stuff there. Okay, So that means we are done with plaster cloth for the moment. And we are ready to move on to Celluclay. Okay. Celluclay is, you can buy it at any, I'm going to face in here. Hi. Celluclay. Buy it at any like craft store. You can probably even get it at Walmart. It is essentially paper mache. Essentially, I think it's a slightly different formula. It's a little more plastery than papery. But yeah, so it's a you get quite a bit of it. You get a big old bag of it. This cost me $23 at Hobby Lobby at the time. I'm sure I probably got it for like a 50% off deal, because the way that Hobby Lobby works is like every week they have half off of something else. So you can probably get it for cheaper than that. It's a really good material. You get a heck of a lot of it for the price. So yeah, so all you do is just add water, and then it makes it really easy to use. So let's see. I'm trying to find instructions so I can get the right consistency. What is the consistency that they want you to use? Does it say? Not really. All right, so what we're going to do is we're just going to play with it a little bit. Let me go dump this water out and get some fresh water, and we'll get going on the Celluclay. Okay. Okay. Trying to figure out the best way to do this. You can see, and I can still work. I'm just going to, with a plastic spoon here, just kind of get some Celluclay. You can see it's a real papery, dusty kind of mixture of plaster and paper and I like it. One thing you can do, and I've done it in the past, is you can you can color it with some acrylic paints before you lay it on. And that works well. The only thing that I would say about that is that you get a weird consistency sometimes that's inconsistent from batch to batch. So it can be a little runny, a little messy. The benefit is that, like, should you knock it or chip it or whatever, then the color of the, you knock the surface scenery off, then the color underneath is going to be that color of that sort of painted Celluclay. So So that's helpful. But I don't know. If I mess it up, I'll just go over with a little bit of paint, touch it up anyway, right? "32 ounces of water for 1 pound of Celluclay." Awesome. Well, I don't have a pound here. So I'm just going to add in a little bit of water at a time until I get the consistency I'm looking for. That's how I'm going to tackle it. Thank you for that. 32 ounces of water for 1 pound of Celluclay. So if you're doing a large area, it's a good note to have. Where did my spoon go? Oh, there it is. So I'm just going to add some water, mix it in a little bit. And I'm kind of looking for, I don't know. I'll show you. It's like just a mushiness. You see the dust that comes off of this. This really soaks up water good. Cool. So what I'm kind of looking for is a texture that looks very much like wet oatmeal. Can I show this off real well? Hey, look at that. Ooh, it's like a cooking show all of a sudden. See how just like it's a little mushy. It's probably wetter than it needs to be, but I want it to go on a little smoother as well. So I'm going to wet it down. You see here? That's looking pretty delicious. What do we got here? I found that the sheetrock mix works really well instead of plaster. I feel it's 80 times lighter and cheaper per bag. Works better, just my experience. Kind of looks like Sculptamold. This kind of does look like Sculptamold. It's more paper mache than Sculptamold is. The sheetrock mixture is a good idea as well. I might try some of that for some of what I'm working on. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and slap it on. And there's just really no clean way to do this. Just kind of use your finger. This will take a while to dry. And it'll shrink a little bit when it dries too, because I made mine kind of extra wet. And I'm laying mine on extra thick as well, so it's going to take a little while to dry. But it'll look good when it's done. And I'm going to just cover up all of the plaster bits with this, the plaster cloth, I should say, with this Sculptamold, because the plaster cloth has like holes in it, and that'll show up when it dries and you paint it and everything. And I don't want it to show up, so I'm going to cover it with the Sculptamold and kind of just work it in with my finger. Kind of fill in those holes and fill in the kind of the top edge of it, so you're not seeing the top edge of the plaster cloth. So the plaster cloth gives it strength, and the Sculptamold just kind of allows for that transition to happen between materials. Cool. Take a look at it from different angles to see if I want to make some more adjustments to it. I can always come in here later and add another layer if I felt like I needed one. Another good thing about cellular Celluclay is it's pretty lightweight in comparison with plaster. So if you're worried, if you are making a portable layout, or you're worried about the weight of your scenery, you know, like if you got like a shelf that's on a wall and you don't want it super heavy, potentially coming off of the wall or bowing down over time, lighter construction materials and scenery for your scenery is always a good idea. So foam, Celluclay, that kind of thing. Okay. It doesn't need to be perfect because nature's not perfect in real life, and we're going to go back over this with paint and static grass and bushes and trees and all sorts of things. So it's going to, you know, look very natural and realistic by the time we're done. Big thing I'm worried about is just getting rid of like these areas where we see the top of the cloth, so that that line doesn't kind of show up as a line that the eye is drawn to. Because when you're doing scenery, unnatural elements such as straight lines will draw an eye. And then everything else will just kind of look like natural scenery. Fascinating sheetrock material. You have a hard surface in 5 minutes. That's not bad. I like that. Okay, so Chris is saying that Sculptamold and Celluclay are the same thing. It's good to know. What am I thinking of that's a little more plastery? Woodland Scenics sells it, right? I always thought Sculptamold was like Celluclay, but more like plastery bits than papery bits. But maybe I'm wrong. I'm sure I'm wrong. I'm just going to stick some Celluclay right here. Okay. And I got a couple of spots up top that I want to have a little bit of build up on ground-wise to hide a little bit of the structure of my bridge. This one we have to return to a little bit as it starts to dry, just to kind of make sure I'm shaping and sculpting itself properly. But I've got like bridge supports that are kind of showing a little bit at the top there. I kind of want to just hide behind a little bit of land material. Like I said, I'm going to return to this after it starts to dry a little bit and just help make sure that it's conforming nicely to the shape I want it to be. Am I thinking of Super Sculpty? Is that the Woodland Scenics product that's a little more plastery? Okay. I am thinking of Hydrocal by Woodland Scenics. It's a completely different name. Hydrocal. I have like a 30-year-old box of Hydrocal sitting in my closet still to this day. Okay, somebody asked if I have tips for organizing under the layout. And that is a topic near and dear to my heart because I love organization. I'm not going to be able to show you here, but I have a couple of ways well, actually, I can show you this. These aren't model railroad related. These are board games and all sorts of other things. But you can see I've got these big Sterilite rolling bins that I have filled to the brim with junk, hobby stuff. And then on top of it, I put a shelf. This is like build your own shelf kind of shelf material. It's like, what do you call it? Ooh, I've got a little bit of a drip. Hold on. I got some water working its way through, which is fine. Let's put down some paper here. Anyways, I top it with like a big old shelf thing, and then I just stack toys and stuff on top of it. But you can do that for under your layout. The one thing I don't like, and this is just a personal preference, I do not like the black curtains that a lot of model railroads have to kind of hide all that stuff. I don't know. It's a personal preference. I think the black curtain doesn't look super great. It's like one of those things that everyone did back in the day, and then, yeah. I'd rather have really nice looking. I'd like to have really nice looking bins and stuff, and then curtains. And that just helps by having it out in the open like that too. It helps me keep everything a little nicer and tidier because people can see it. So, using these clear Sterilite, you can see them all the way down. All the way down to the end. By using those clear Sterilite things. It's I'm showing it off a little bit, so it's just encouraging me to just make sure that things look nicer and a little more organized. So instead of trying to hide my shame, I'm proudly displaying my shame. That's my biggest thing with organization is if you can stick it in a bin and not just throw a bunch of boxes or loose material somewhere. By putting things in bins, and this drawer is for scenery, this drawer is for rolling stock parts and whatever. It doesn't have to be super organized, but organization, I think overall is really good for model railroaders because it is very easy for us to get. I'm going to do it from this side. It's a bit of a better view. It's like a cooking show view, right? Where you got the food in front of you and the person standing behind the counter. The more organized you are as a model railroader, I think the better better is the wrong word. Things get less sloppy, things get lost less easily, and you're just kind of better able to tackle whatever projects that's in front of you. Like I found with organization, if it takes me too long to get to the actual act of, whatever scenery thing I'm working on, or painting thing I'm working on, or modeling thing I'm working on, if I got to go hunting and digging up a bunch of stuff and I can't find it because it was in, this one box, but that box is in the back of the closet somewhere now, and maybe it was in this other box instead. I don't remember. I bought it 6 years ago, so it's not over here with these boxes that I bought 4 years ago, whatever it might be. Yeah, if I'm a little more organized, I can get to the actual act of hobbying faster, then I'm more likely to do it. And I am more likely to enjoy the process of doing it. And so therefore, I'm having a better time. I need to mix up some more Celluclay here. This is probably a little too wet, but that's fine. It'll dry. It'll just take longer. So maybe you mix it like a little bit of a thicker oatmeal. If you want to build up a lot of structure, thicker oatmeal I think would be the better way to go. Because I'm kind of also trying to do two things at once. I'm building up structure and filling in these holes. This works for me. How do I store? First of all, thanks Humanity Junction for your comment. Appreciate that. How do I store shaker boxes for Woodland Scenic stuff? I don't use Woodland Scenic materials generally. I use Scenery Express materials. Let me show you what I do though. Okay. This is my scenery cart that I kind of wheel around. And I don't use the shaker boxes. I use Scenic Express material generally. So it comes in like plastic bags. And so I just stick everything in disposable Tupperware with a little bit of a label on it so you can see, so I know what color it is. So for example, this is leaves I've collected from my yard, and so I go for underneath trees and stuff. So that's how I store that. I do have a couple like shaker things like this, but I put everything on a scenery cart. And if I don't have it on a scenery cart, then it does go in a box in a closet. That's how I do that. Okay. Let's get some more of this. I don't need a ton more, a little bit more. How much more do I need to do? Just a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll show you a bit of a thicker consistency version. And can you see that okay? It is like thick oatmeal. Now you can just kind of slop on there like that. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Still goes on kind of smooth. A little bit easier to work in. Got a screw hole here I need to cover. Boom. Hidden. Hidden from view forever. Oh. I have static grass worked right up to the edge of this plaster cloth. This is why you don't do static grass before you get all this done. So I'm going to have to come back and rework this, which is fine. I'm going to add static grass up the hill anyway, so I might as well rework some of those other areas. Okay. There we go. There we go. And I think I am done for now. I'm going to come back down here. I'm going to let this dry for a bit. Come back down, check on it about every 15 minutes. Once it starts to dry out a little bit, it gets a little bit easier to kind of smooth it down just a little bit with your finger. You know, check to make sure things are still kind of drying the way I want. And then once that's done, then it's ready for paint. And then you can ground foam and static grass and do all the stuff you want to kind of clean it up and make it look perfect. Yeah, that's about it. Cool. How long have I been streaming now? Almost an hour. Awesome. I like 1 hour streams. I think it's about good. Okay. So any questions or thoughts before I call the stream for today? Thank you everyone for checking this out. I do appreciate it. I like doing these live streams because it encourages me to work on the layout. And there are times when I'm just like, I just don't want to work on the layout, you know? We all go through those times. But having people to work on the layout with is helpful. At least for me anyway. Cool. All right, I'm just playing with it at this point, so I'm going to go ahead and call it good there. I will be posting pictures, on my Facebook page and on my Instagram page about this, and so you can kind of see what the finished dried result will end up looking like, and maybe a better image quality as well. But yeah, so again, thank you for stopping by and checking this out with me. And yeah, if you have any questions, just reach out to me at some point, and I'll be happy to answer if I can. Thanks, everyone. I'll see everyone in another video.